Hey there, family. How you doing? This is your brother Mtima Radi. I figured I'd try a little something different. A little something different instead of the same old boring, background that I've been trying. But the ancestors. One second, family. Okay, so the ancestors had a little bit of an addendum for the video. I haven't even posted it yet, but this is an addendum to it. And you're gonna hear a lot of talk over the next 6 or 7 years, next few years, about algorithms. And there's something very potent and powerful that they want you to understand about algorithms. Um, First and foremost, the European does not understand a lot of things that he and she believes they understand. They, on one level, understand that this is a dimension which is three-dimensional, but they have not yet clearly figured out what that three-dimensional framework is. They think they have, but they haven't. Part of the three-dimensional framework is captured in the idea of mind, emotion, and spirit. And whatever you create, elements of your idea draw both from the mechanical conceptualization in your mind. It then draws from the emotionality placed behind it, including a lot of the emotionality that you don't even know that you're expressing when you're creating. And then it draws its most potent strength from your spirit, because your free will, which goes into creating everything that you do, directs whatever product you are creating. But what is more important is that because you are a God, and even those entities that are just people have the ability to create. So therefore, they have the God force within them to still create. Because we are God, we have that source within us that gives life. And no matter what they tell you, whether you are building a computer, whether you are building a machine, whether you are sewing something, it all has life. Everything on this planet has a life force through it. That's one of the greatest things about Earth that most planets up to this point in time couldn't duplicate. But now Earths are being duplicated throughout uh, not only the universe but beyond the universe. That life force matures what it is that you create. That life force matures what it is that you create. This is why and by the way, that maturation comes from a cultural standpoint. So what does your culture demand of you? It also comes from your spirituality, how you view life, how you view the things that life produces, how you view the things that humans produce. It also comes from your perception of God. That's important. It comes from your perception of God. And you can actually see this wonderfully if you study Native Americans and what is known about their culture prior to the Europeans coming over here. What you see is a self-sustaining people whose strong belief in their deities enabled them to create things that didn't destroy the land, didn't pollute the land, didn't pollute the air, didn't pollute anything, because they understood that everything has life force in it. And the reason why I didn't call back to Africa for this is because there are many tribes in Africa which believe this. But there are many more, well, not many more, but there are many also that don't. And so I don't want to Like I should have probably used the Dogon because they are a really good example of this. But this, I've done a little bit of research into Native American stuff, so I'm drawing from my memory. So apologetic if I angered some of you, but at the same time, we are all ancestors. We are all indigenous ancestors, and I thank Brother Phil Valentine for helping me understand what the word indigenous actually means, which is in the genes. But anyway, so all of that comes together to form what it is that you create. And if you really think about white folks, Europeans, and you think about what they create, you can see all of these elements in what they create. And you can then understand why their stuff leads to such misery and tragedy. Moreover, and this is another point that needs to be made, your view of your fellow being also goes into what you create. Your view of nature, your relationship to nature, your relationship to the cosmos, harmony, goes into it. I just thought about something, family, and I was just like, man, I don't even know if that's appropriate if I could even talk about that. But because the ancestors tell me stuff, and I'm just like, why the hell, Because names are important. Harmony. Anyway, I'm letting it go because that's, I think, something for me. Anyway, if you look again at the European, then you can see why some of their stuff or a lot of their stuff has resulted in destruction and corruption and the like, because through all those elements, you just see a people that is very unbalanced. And so that's very important. Algorithms, which are thought to just be these simplistic things that you write and then you deploy into a computer system, they're not just that. Remember, the word algorithm actually comes from, and God, for the life of me, it's, I knew I was doing this, so I should have looked his name up beforehand because I figured I'd be talking about him. But I forget the brother's name who actually created the science behind it. But it comes from a man. And if I'm not mistaken, it comes from a Moorish man who happened to also be a black Hebrew. But his books were mysteriously burned, and many of his books, there's still some that survive, but many of his books were mysteriously burned after his death. And the ancestors are like, they weren't mysteriously anything. We caught them suckers on fire. So they lost all that stuff because they would have used it negatively. Same reason why Rudolf Steiner threw out a bunch of his stuff. The same reason why Nostradamus destroyed a bunch of his books, because he knew that the people would utilize it negatively. But what these folks don't get when they write these algorithms and then they deploy them into their computer systems is that they're literally messing with dimensional frequencies. This energy, which we have been utilizing to power our home, is a degraded energy source. It is a massively degraded energy source. This is why the Amish won't use it. Because as a degraded energy source, it's actually not from the source. It is created energy, which in and of itself comes from portions, how can I explain this? Portions of the planet molesting other portions of the planet. The fact that you need tension to create this energy tells you that it's not a good source of energy, because you're causing physical harm to the planet to create it. And that's not how energy on this planet, on this frequency, in this universe is supposed to work. Energy is freely given. We have a hologram, but it's still there, and it does still actually provide some incredible magnetic frequencies. I'm talking about the sun there. And that creates such a force, a powerful force, and a source of uh, a source of magnetic fielding that this planet should never want to think about even trying to need energy. Energy shouldn't be an issue. Tesla, some of this stuff does exist, by the way, but Tesla knew this because Tesla was a brilliant man and a fascinating man. He had some of the old writings of the Moors, which he himself channeled. He didn't channel them. He did some stuff and got hold of them, which I really can't go into it. But he did some like, this is one reason why he was always by himself, is because he really got deep into stuff. He got deep into occults. He got deep into metaphysics and things like that. And for a while, he was underwritten by a couple of rich men. Those rich men abandoned him. Technically, they didn't abandon him. They were threatened into abandoning him, because the type of stuff that he was starting to pull from the other side would have revolutionized everything. And this is massively important, family, because right now where we are at, we are in what they call, we are supposed to be in the middle of a green revolution. And the green revolution ain't what they keep saying it is. The green revolution that they're talking about is that this planet should be running on pure and clean energy, 100% by 2050. In fact, we should already be mostly there. By 2050, we should be running on completely clean energy. And the only reason why it's 2050 now, because it was supposed to be 1950. Did you hear what I just said? It was supposed to be 1950. We should be in the second to third generation of clean green technologies. The type of technologies, which that's the wrong, but that's the only way that I can explain it to you. Technology, as I was saying before, is the lesser. Thank you, Phil Valentine, for that information. It means to teach knowledge. Boom. But that's the only way that I can explain it to you. We should be in the second or third generation of this already. And the fact that we aren't even in generation 1 tells you how far off path we are because of this European. Now, going back to the algorithms, because, man, it's a passion of mine, this green revolution. Going back to the algorithm. Give me 1 second, family. Okay, I'm back. So, going back to the algorithm. When they put it into their frames, into their mainframes and their computer systems, they don't get that they are interacting with the electrical fields of the planet. They don't get that. They're literally interacting with the electrical fields. All of these major, large, huge data warehouses and stuff like that, these are massively important because they are putting enough energy into those places where if you really wanted to and you knew what you were doing, you can open up portals. You can open up portals. So by putting these algorithms in, they're literally playing with the energy fields of those locations which they're in and the locations where those places reach. So the fact that we are all connected via the internet now, to put in a algorithm that you know is going to impact millions of computers is essentially ensuring that you're going to impact millions of people in millions of different places. The problem is, because these algorithms are seen as one-dimensional, and in fact they're 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 dimensional, meaning they have things attached to it attributable to all of those elements which I was talking about a few moments ago. They have unforeseen consequences, obviously. And they impact people in such a way where even the developers don't understand what's going on. Again, this is massively important because um, right now the algorithms are just trying to adjust qualities and quantities on the internet. Soon they're going to go after machines. Soon the algorithms are going to be about programming machine, or how do I want to put this? Bigger machines than like computers. And soon it's going to be about cars and planes and trains and the like. And it shouldn't be, because it's way too much power for these people. It's going to get them in a lot of trouble. But that's where they're looking to aim. And that's when you're going to really see the human population decrease in intelligence, because you're literally, with those algorithms, with a lot of them, you're starting to see them shred the social and psychological networks around um, around us, and shred our cultural networks which are around us. See, we keep thinking that the technology is making us dumber. It is. It is. It's learning us, and we don't even realize it. It's sucking our intelligence. Intelligence is is an element to an extent. I mean, it's complicated than just saying intelligence is an element. But basically, the knowledge and stuff, the memories and stuff that you keep in your head, those are spiritual elements. And if you have the right device and the person isn't grounded enough to keep that all within their being, or something pierces their being, then it could literally suck out your intelligence and your knowledge and your memories. Now, I know this sounds absolutely insane and crazy. I get that. When I first started, learning about this, and I'll tell you, family, the first time some of this stuff started coming to me was about 12 years ago. And back then, I need y'all to understand how different I was. I've always been like strange. I've always liked aliens and, stuff like that. And in fact, I remember telling my mom when I was like 8, because we were watching something on aliens, and I said to my mom, the next day I was coloring alien stuff, and I said to her, I go, I'm not from here, right? And she's like, huh? And I go, yeah, mom, I'm an alien too. And she started laughing, and my dad didn't laugh. My mom started laughing. Boy, cut it out, man. You ain't. And I said, no, mom, seriously, I'm not from here. Like, I've been to Jupiter, I've been to here, I've been to there. And she was like, boy, get the heck out of here. Yeah. And just whatever, right? And my dad just looked at me like, interesting thing to say, boy. And then just, that was it. But I've always been different. Now, I don't know what possessed me to say that when I was young, but, I did. I've also, as I've told my mother and father, who are now passed away, transitioned, as we say, I have memories from an old life. I believed from basically the time that I could talk that reincarnation is real. I have memories from old lives. I've dreamt about old lives, some of which I'm glad I'm not in anymore, others of which I miss terribly. I lived a life in England, which I loved, 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 loved. I lived a life in India, which I loved. A life in Central America, which I loved. I died young there, though. I've lived a life in Japan, a couple of lives in Japan. I love that culture and society. Lost a wife in one of those ones. I was very sad about that. Lived in the Midwest amongst the Indians. Lived also in the Midwest as a cowboy before it was such a thing as a cowboy. It was different then. And then I've lived numerous lives in Africa. Numerous lives in Africa. I've lived in the Pacific Ocean, the Hawaiian Islands, a group of islands that are now under the waters. I mean, you know, I've done the, I have memories of all that stuff. But what's funny is when I started receiving some of this information that I'm sharing with you guys recently, and this was like 12 years ago, some of it was even a little bit before then, some of it was, 2010, 2011. Even I, very strange guy, was like, yeah, nah, this isn't real. This ain't real. And I just dismissed it. I wanted nothing to do with it. It was like, whatever, y'all, boom. And then what happened, to be very, very clear about this and very honest with you guys, because I think this could help some people. I started listening to Bobby Hemmett, listening to Phil Valentine, listening to Amos Wilson, listening to John Hedrick Clark, all these people that I didn't even know existed up until 2008. I was listening and I was learning. And I started with the ancestors. What I realized is the ancestors, if you pay attention, they'll drop you hints so that when you get to the point where you start moving onto your path, those hints will lead you to doorways of knowledge and wisdom. And so when you're moving through your path and you're starting to collect information, you'll hit one of those hints and you'll be like, wait a minute, I thought that, but it didn't make sense then. Now it makes sense. And that's what was happening to me. And so the ancestors was skillful about it. I would find out stuff by listening to Bobby Hemmett and Amos Wilson and Phil Valentine, and I'd look, it would hit me, and then I'd look and I'd go, that can't be true, could it? But it was. And so that made me more likely to believe the other information that they were given, or at least to sort through it. I didn't, there were some things that I still have a hard time believing. Some stuff that even Phil Valentine, said, look, there was a whole bunch of stuff that I used to believe that I don't believe anymore. And that's cool. But when I got to a point, and I think it was really, I hate to say it, I hate to really admit this, but I think it was really watching Barack Obama and then seeing Trump get elected that really clicked something in my mind that, okay, there's something going on here. And so 2017 into 2018, I was listening a lot more and paying attention to what they wanted to tell me. And that's how I kind of got here. So with the algorithm thing, it's crazy, but I understand it. It's crazy, but I understand it. And we have not figured out what all this energy, well, there are some scientists that have theories, and some of them have some very good theories of what happens when you take all this energy and you put it into one place, and then you start sending out commands through it to impact energies in a distant place. I mean, we don't understand that we are playing with something dangerous. We don't understand that we are playing with something dangerous. And in fact, I'll tell you, family, a lot of the technology is harming us in ways that we ain't even, it is because of this technology, harming us in ways that we ain't even realized yet. It's because a lot of this technology that we are spiraling to the position that we are getting to. And that's because a lot of this technology is not being created by the people who think it's being created by them. The people, some of these folks are being misled and misused, pure and simple. And they don't get that their limitations in social intelligence, their limitations in emotional intelligence is driving them to create things that limit the social intelligence and emotional intelligence, among other intelligences, including spiritual intelligence, of other people. They just don't get that. And so these algorithms are only going to get worse. They're only going to get worse. Now, how do you counter it? Because there are certain things that you can do. For black people, we need to really we really need to spend our time waking our minds up and waking our hearts up, getting in touch with our higher selves, getting our higher selves and our beings put together correctly. And part of that, I'm going to be able to help you out with as I do these podcasts and these sermons and these meditations with you. I'll be sharing that with you. But we have to do that because with having a strong core, a strong being, we can actually hold off and push off. We can push off a lot of these negative effects of these algorithms. We also, some of us need to also take up the cause of studying algorithms, the science of creating algorithms, put it together with the common ideas and the advanced ideas of Kabbalah and the spiritual ideas of occultism and understand how it interacts. Always remember, family, always remember, there is a god in Egypt named Tech. Always remember that. Most people forget that, but there's a god in Egypt named Tech. There's also a god in Egypt named Net. And there's this old book that I found where it's so funny because the book was written, it's a kind of a workbook. It was written in the early to mid 90s. And reading portions of it, man, you can almost see the whole internet aspect of the spiritual concept of the internet in there. And it's just kind of interesting. But we can counter this. We can counter this. We also have to start engaging in creating better music, because that's what's going to strengthen our souls and strengthen our lights if we have better music. And I'm not talking about Christian music now. We have to actually rewrite our gospel music. And what I mean by rewrite is more rework our gospel music. It's more that one. Because our gospel music is rooted to Christianity, which is a dying source of anything presently. We are the ones holding it up, as well as the people in South America and like the Philippines and stuff. But we are the ones holding up this Christian ideology. It's dead. It's pretty much dead. It's a zombie walking around. We need to get in touch with our with the levels of the voodoo. Keep working on the Kemet stuff and start going deeper into it. That means buying. A lot of people, they're afraid to do this, but we got to get it done, family. We got to buy up. If we got the money, we have to buy up books that are 500, 600, 1,000 pages. Or excuse me, not 500, 600. $500, $600, maybe $1,000. And then we have to make sure that we have a way to distribute those things. Because those are the things that we as people need. I'm not saying break the law, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we have access to this information, because a lot of the stuff that we need to get further along is buried in those books. And Bobby Hemmett talked about this. And I think that's it for tonight. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them below. I'll talk with you guys later. Hope you like the background. I don't know how often I'm going to use it, but I do like the view. It looks nice. Peace.